So when we think about where do these self-doubts and worries show up for us at the conscious level as these limiting beliefs, well, a limiting belief is just a thought pattern. So it's not something that you've thought once in your life and then never thought about it again. It's an ongoing pattern, something that continuously presents itself to the surface of your mind. And often when it comes time to put your creation out there to the world, you may run into that self-doubt and that fear. So as you're having specific thoughts and worries and fears that are kind of playing on repeat, I'm just not as good as blank. I'm not as good at doing blank. So-and-so is more intelligent or more organized, or so-and-so is really good at selling her book because she's an extrovert and she's good at talking to people and I can't do that. On and on and on. People won't be willing to pay X amount of dollars. So-and-so can command that income because blank, blank, blank. Insert your own blanks. That's where our limiting beliefs show up. So what do we do with our limiting beliefs? Well, there's several steps, and it's a very simple process. The very first piece, and it's going to sound very common sense, but it is to increase your awareness, beginning by listening to the thoughts that you are thinking. Start noticing them, hear them. It's not as easy as it looks because sometimes limiting beliefs will pop out more so when you're doing something new or something public where you're kind of already distracted. They will tend to be thought by you in a voice that's very critical. And now sometimes that voice will take on the voice of someone who often has criticized you. It may be from an early on experience, such as a parent or a sibling or a teacher. Or it may be somebody who has criticized you more recently in your adult life. And when those words, that kind of repeated limiting belief shows up over a long period of time, it often will morph into your own voice, so it actually sounds like you. But the key here is that the tone is critical. The words are often hurtful, and you may notice words like always or never. That can kind of help to spotlight a limiting belief. The comment tends to be extreme, like an all or nothing sort of a sentiment, such as you never make the sale or you always wait till the last minute. If you've ever caught yourself saying those words in your mind, it may just be a limiting belief. And then the other element to pay attention to is how it feels. So notice kind of down in your belly how you feel when you think that thought. If it feels sort of yucky and leads to emotions like shame, embarrassment, anger, depression, sadness, it's probably a limiting belief because it's evoking a rather strong emotion. Now, it's important to kind of distinguish here because not all self-criticisms are limiting beliefs or harmful. So it's perfectly fine and healthy for us to kind of logically recognize that we just aren't good at something. We can't be good at everything, right? So if the thought is just sort of kind of logical and detached, and you're feeling okay about it and you're not experiencing an intense emotion about it, then it may not be a limiting belief. So it's okay to notice your strengths and your not so strengthy strengths, but that's different than thoughts that feel like I'm shit, right? That are really kind of beating up on you. And a limiting belief will tend to be really extreme, making you feel yucky. You can catch it when you're in the moment. Notice yourself in different situations and start to become the observer. What are you thinking about? What are the exact words of your thoughts? It may be helpful to write them down just to see how critically and sometimes meanly we are speaking to ourselves. And once you start to take notice of those limiting beliefs, that in itself is a very powerful step, because it's difficult to transform what you can't see. Now, we do have tools for dealing with things at the subconscious level, but at the conscious level, we need to catch it first. These beliefs can have a huge impact on our whole lives in every arena. So it's not necessarily just your business and your creation process. I can almost guarantee that these beliefs are affecting other aspects in your life too. So identifying them and then transforming them will impact more than just the topic that they're directly related to. So once you've identified that limiting belief by paying attention and noticing it, it can be helpful to kind of make a list of all of the beliefs that you want to target for change. And once you do this a couple of times, it gets a lot easier. And then it becomes, kind of a flow, a practice that you can do quite easily and quite smoothly. When I first started paying attention to my own limiting beliefs, I noticed them showing up everywhere, and it got really exciting as I realized that I didn't have to keep carrying them around anymore and having my whole life be informed by them. So then, of course, the next step is to transform it. And the very first piece here is what I call the practice of doubting, becoming open to doubting. And as an example for you, kind of a comical example for you, at some point in your life, perhaps early on as a child, you may have been given a belief that there was something called Santa Claus. Now, I realize this is not necessarily every culture, so think about what it was for you as a child. You were told early on, perhaps Santa Claus or Easter Bunny, who hopped into your house and left a basket of candy, or a man in a red suit who climbed down your chimney and deposited a bag of delightful goodies. There's probably some childhood belief that you can conjure up and recall. And now when you think about this, you only believed in these beliefs because someone told you it was so. Then, at some point, you had a realization that this belief wasn't true. Either because some other kid at school told you it wasn't, which is what happened for me. They kind of dashed the Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy all at once. Or perhaps you caught mom drinking the milk and eating the cookies that were supposed to be for Santa, and then she fessed up. Or something happened that caused you to doubt that belief and eventually jettison this belief. In other words, something poked holes in your belief. And we're going to employ that same tactic here. And really, aren't you glad you aren't still, walking around today expecting a man to come down your chimney in a red suit? It is possible for us to outgrow an old belief. And you notice as you start to reflect on your present day belief, whatever your limiting belief currently is, you can also poke holes in that. So for example, if we take a belief like, no one ever buys my thing, that's a very extreme statement. We can detect the always or never that we talked about earlier. And if we poke a hole and say, well, but there were 2 times that someone did. Oh, okay, so we've poked a hole now. We've seen now this belief is not absolute. Imagine that. So allow your mind to expand a bit to the awareness and the realization that, take a deep breath, you don't know everything. There is so much that you and I don't know. It could fill volumes in a library. Isn't that fascinating and exciting? You do not actually know everything, even about yourself. And when you realize that you are not actually always correct about yourself, your abilities, your experiences, it becomes immensely liberating. You are only carrying one tiny little perspective of a whole wide world. And the beliefs and the things that you think are true can be like little wisps of clouds that can float out of your experience if you are willing to let them go. And that's what this practice of doubting is. We are going to doubt those limiting beliefs, poking the holes in them, and eventually being willing to release them and let them go. And this will continue to happen more and more over time as you continue to, first of all, start noticing that the old belief, where it shows up in your thinking, having that awareness of it, and continuing to poke those holes in the belief as you notice more and more evidence that it isn't true, it isn't absolute. And then when you're emotionally ready to release it and let it go, then, and really only then, you can turn your attention to replacing it with a much better feeling belief. You are free to choose differently, and now you are free to choose a new belief. So now that you've released that old belief, it's a great opportunity to implant a new one in its place. And I don't recommend jumping from 0 to 60. It's often much more effective to take one step upwards towards something that just feels slightly better, that's slightly more positive, that feels believable to you and is within reach to you. So you don't have to go from I suck at sales or I'm terrible at this all the way to I'm amazing at sales, I'm the best there is. That's a really big jump, and it probably won't feel believable to you. So instead, you could try something like, well, it's not my favorite of all my skills, but I can do it when I really want to or really need to, and I'm getting better at it all the time. And then begin noticing all the places where this new belief is showing up for you in your life. The more you pay attention and look for evidence of the new belief, the more you'll see it. And of course, the flip side is true. So if you focus on finding evidence of the old belief, you're going to see that as well. But we don't want to do that anymore, right? We want to focus on the new belief, and that's the direction you'll begin driving in. So if you keep looking for all the ways in which this new belief is true, you'll begin to find it.